One, it's not as difficult as you think.
Yeah.
Um, Two, it's cheap.
Mhm.
You can actually open a hobbyist account and prototype like up to 5 experiences for nothing, and the
Mm.
account stays open forever. So, once you start actually applying them to your learning experiences, you'll need to get a license. But, Zapper lets you get in there and just play with it for a minute and see if it's going to work for you, which I think is amazing.
Mhm.
Um, I think of it as just like every other tool in your tool belt, right? So we have lots of tools. We have Storyline, we have video editing software, we have sometimes video recording software, we have animated videos, we have micro learning, right? We have Adobe. Here's the thing. If you can create a PowerPoint slide, you can create a simple augmented reality experience. You already have the skill set. I'm going to say it
Yeah.
one more time. You already have it.
Hello and welcome to the Making Better podcast, where we talk about how to make ourselves, our teams, and our organizations better. Whether you are a business leader, a learning and development professional, a technical trainer, this show will give you actionable insights to help you improve your own performance and the performance of those around you. Our guest today is Betty Dannewitz. Betty is a learning solutions architect at Blanchard and host of the If You Ask Betty podcast, where she helps learning professionals at all levels improve their skills and think about design differently. She is also a passionate advocate of XR solutions in learning, which is why she is on the show today. I met Betty a few months ago, and we have gotten to know each other quite well through working on ATD's Tech Knowledge Conference. I wanted to have her on today to talk about her work in the XR space because I am, as you've probably heard in recent shows, getting extremely passionate about this technology, and I'm hoping Betty can help me figure it out. Before we get into the discussion, I need to remind you that if you are not a subscriber, make sure to take a moment to hit subscribe so you never miss a future episode. And if you're already a subscriber, I would love it if you would take a moment to share this show with at least one other person, because that is how we grow. I can't tell you how much it means to me. So with that, let's get into the discussion. Betty, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good. Doing really
Awesome.
good. It's Friday, which doesn't really matter on a podcast, but for me, it does. I mean,
Yeah.
what's not to love about that?
Yeah, exactly. It's always nice to end the week with, a little bit, recording a little friendly little
Yeah,
conversation,
why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you and I, at least from my point of view, need to be classified as really close friends because we have done karaoke together, and you actually
That's right.
introduced me to karaoke. This is one
Uh,
thing that you really
yep.
like. What is with your love for karaoke?
Yeah, so I've been fascinated with it for a long time, but up until about 5 years ago, I had a crippling fear of singing in front of people.
Mm.
Like to the point where I was like I could get up and speak to, 500 people and have absolutely nothing planned to say, and I'd probably be just fine. It's a little nervous, but not that bad. But the idea of singing in front of people makes me wanna just, like, melt. Um, at least it did for a long time, and then I had sort of like my first jab at it, and I was like, "That was horrible. I can't wait to do it again." And then, what I found is that when you get a bunch of people together, like, they don't even have to know each other.
Yeah.
And they can have a great time because music sort of creates this community, right? So, like, most recently, when we were at DevLearn in Las Vegas, I set up a private karaoke room, which is really the best way to go.
Yeah.
But you and I sing in a public one, which works too. It's fine. But private karaoke, you don't have to wait for everybody else. And I had probably 30 people there from all over the globe, all different areas of L&D. A lot of them didn't even know each other. And they come in and they sing songs, and all of a sudden they're like singing together because we all
Mhm.
know these songs and we all
Mhm.
have these, deep connections. So it's a really fun way to kind of build camaraderie even with people you don't necessarily know very well. And one thing that's nice about the private room versus the public is in the public room, other people sing with you and get really close to you, but
You
you don't
don't
know
know.
them at all.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it can
Yeah,
get a
that
little
was
weird in the public places.
it was very weird when we sang at
Yes.
that one place in
Yes.
Alexandria. There was a lot of strangers and
Yes.
touching
It was very
you
close.
should back up, buddy. Yeah,
Yes, very close quarters, but that's part of
very
the
close.
experience too. But yeah, you're right. Like it can be really just the ultimate icebreaker to really give people a chance to get to know one another. And I love how you just mentioned how it sounds like it was almost like a personal skill building activity for you of like breaking through
Kinda.
some kind of barriers. That's neat. Very cool.
I mean, we all have this thing that we're afraid to do that we've made huge in our head, and
Yeah.
then you do it one day and you're like, "Oh, that really wasn't that bad.
Yes.
I'll just pick a different song next time," which is what I did, and,
Yes.
yeah, so it's super fun. My daughter turned 21 this year, and we booked a private room and took a bunch of our family and her friends up to do karaoke, and they were like, "Who are you, mom?" Like, and I'm like, "This is so much fun.
This is
Here, pick a
great.
song."
Yeah.
And we sang for like 3 hours, and it was great. We had a good time.
That's awesome. Well, you're slowly selling me on it more and more. So so this is great. Well, to
Yeah.
to get into kind of the topic of the day, like I mentioned in the intro, I'm getting really excited about VR and honestly, more specifically AR. I think that those mixed reality experiences are really going to
Mhm.
be the future. But this is still I've always been interested in it, but I've never really experienced it until very recently. How long have you been playing around with this stuff, both
Yeah.
semi seriously and seriously?
Yeah, about 5 years.
Okay.
2018, so that's 5 years. I went to, my first conference ever, which was Realities 360. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was part of the guild, the learning guild,
Okay.
and, out in San Jose, California, and what had happened was and I don't think you've heard this story, so I'm gonna go ahead and
Mm-mm.
tell it to you.
Yeah.
What had happened was I was working for Ally Financial, and we had a meeting, both myself and my boss, with, like, the head of the department, and they were like, "Hey, what are you doing that's innovative?" And we were like, w sometimes we bring donuts to class."
We're thinking
And,
about doing e-learning.
I mean,
Hey.
you know, and then she was like, "What you need to do something that's innovative, maybe something like, I don't know, augmented reality."
Mm.
And, she was a very forward thinking, executive, and so we were like, "Okay, sure, we can look into that." So I literally went back to my desk and Googled, "What is augmented reality?" Because I didn't know what that was, and then I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, well, this is Snapchat." And I was like,
Mm.
what am I gonna do with face filters when I'm trying to teach insurance operations?"
Yeah.
Yes, it's as boring as it sounds, it's horrible. Even for the people that do it, they're like,
Yes.
"This is awful." I'm like,
Yes.
"I know." So anyways, that kinda took us down this path going to the conference, and I walked in, and there was this sort of like this pre-conference workshop on getting started with AR. Perfect. We sit down, and, there's this guy at the front of the room, and he's got, like, a chin beard and, like, a black shirt on, and he's, like, messing around with the tech at the front, and so I thought what anybody would think, "Oh, it's the IT guy," right? He's getting us all set up, and then he turned around, he's like, "Hello, everyone. My name is Destry, and I'll be your facilitator today," and I looked at my boss, and I was like, "Okay."
This is getting real.
And so we sat through Destry's class, and unfortunately, like so many people, we had, like, laptops that were locked down by our organization, so
Mm,
we could
mhm.
only get so far in learning how to build it. But afterwards, I made sure I was like, "Okay, I need to be friends with him because number 1, he looks like the '90s. Like, if you
Yes.
were to close your eyes and imagine the '90s, you see Destry. Am I wrong?
No,
Okay.
you are not wrong.
And
You
then
yes.
okay, and then also, because I'm gonna need his help because I'm gonna get only so far, and I'm like, "I don't know what to do. Somebody help me." And so that's kinda where it started, and, so I followed him around and bothered him a lot, and he helped me actually report out what I learned from that conference in an augmented reality experience, and that's when
Awesome.
I fell in love with it,
Yes.
and I was like, "This is the shit. We have to do this more." And yeah, and so I started working on implementing it right there at Ally Financial in the insurance area.
So when you say you reported out on the conference using it, what
Mhm.
did you do? What did you create?
So so I created an experience. I wonder if it's gotta still be around somewhere.
Probably.
I created an experience where when you scanned it, it opened up a menu with, like, multiple different places you could tap, and in within those had, like, video report outs of what we learned,
Mhm.
and I did the videos in Snapchat, so they were augmented reality videos. At the time, that was like Instagram hadn't even picked up the whole face filters thing yet at that
Yep.
point. It was
Yep.
Snapchat was the only one doing it. So yeah, and then there was like a couple of links out to like other things we could learn how to do. There was a link to Zapper to be able to sign up for their hobbyist account and things like that. So
Okay.
it was neat to be able to explain augmented reality with an AR experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you say you scan, so somebody would like was it like a QR code that somebody would scan with their phone and then
Yeah, at the time it was a Zap code. So
okay.
Zapper used to have their own app. Well, they still do have it, but
Mhm.
they also now do web AR, which you can do with a QR code.
Mhm.
So at the time it was the Zapper app and the Zapper code.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually the next thing that I wanted to ask you about because so Zapper, I learned about through you, one of your posts when you were, I think, speaking at a conference for them. Um, that whether it's them or like, what's the current state of tools in terms of if I want to build stuff for AR, how much is out there?
Uh-huh.
How easy is it?
Well, it depends on who you are. Are you
Okay.
in marketing? Are you in learning? Are you
Mm,
in
mhm, mhm.
game design? Right? So in learning, we have a budget of $8
Yes.
and that's it.
Everyone. Yes.
Everyone has $8. You need to spend it right. I would say that like we always say that we're product agnostic, but we definitely have favorites.
Right.
And Zapper is a favorite because of 2 reasons. 1, it's cheap and easy.
Okay.
Those are really important characteristics in all the things I do say, feel. It's got to be cheap and easy.
Mhm.
And then also they have sort of like this mission to democratize AR. So
Hmm.
that means to me that means it's going to stay
Mhm.
cheap and easy. They want everyone to be able to do it. And I think that's pretty amazing because that shows that they're not, I mean, I know they have to make money, but I don't feel like they're necessarily that's the only driver, which is great. That really lines up with my values. So I'm a big fan of Zapper. There are other ones out there. Wikitude, I think is what it's called. Um, Blipar now has a consumer facing app opportunity, Bundle AR. But I'll tell you, they all vary in the skill set that you need to actually build in them, and
Mhm.
then they all vary in price, like, dramatically.
Yes.
Like Zapper, you can get for you can start out, like, around $800 US a year, which, by the way, is way cheaper than Storyline or Beyond or
Mhm.
any other of those tools.
Mhm.
Um, but then, like, you go to Bundle AR and it's like 275 a month-ish. Please see
Mhm.
their website because I might be wrong about that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But, like, so that's a massive
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
And so it's really depends on, what's the investment you wanna make? Do you want to build it or do you want somebody else to build it?
Mhm.
Do you want to upskill your folks? I know Zapper offers a class. I feel like this is a commercial for them. Sorry. I wasn't trying to do that,
Yeah.
but it's working out. So, but they have like a class, like especially for AR and learning, which
Mhm.
I built and myself and Destry
Oh,
teach
nice.
to kind of help people think through and ideate how can you use AR and learning solutions, and then how do you actually build them. So there's lots of opportunity. If you're a Unity developer, you can develop AR in Unity. That's a thing.
Okay.
But that is again like a completely different skill set and unlikely to be found in learning
Yeah.
or marketing for that
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
So is that helpful?
Yes. No, I think it is. I mean, let's keep going down this path. You just mentioned all the different ways that you can do it because I think that's one of the things that there's probably two limitations that people have when it comes to AR. One is a skill set or an uncertainty about the skill
Mhm.
set required. But then there's also just the imagination of it, of what am I going to do with this? And I think
Yeah.
like before the show, I was mentioning, so when I present at ATD Tech Knowledge here in a few months, specifically to help
With
me get
with hold on, with LeVar Burton.
yes, with LeVar Burton, absolutely.
It's very important
It
that we
is
let people know that LeVar Burton will be there, so you should come. Okay,
everybody,
go ahead.
if you haven't yet, go check out the ATD Tech Knowledge Conference. It's going to be in LA this year, which means it's going to be awesome.
Mhm.
And our main host is LeVar Burton, our speaker.
He's the closing keynote.
Yes,
I'm gonna introduce him. They're gonna have to call the cops. It's gonna be amazing.
it's going to be great. Yes. Okay. So everybody come be there for that.
Yep.
and it's tech knowledge, right? Like, it's meant to be kind of
Yeah,
forward thinking, and so even though it's not the primary part, it's not what I'm talking about, I want to include some AR. I've been thinking about including AR in it so that people could pull up their phone and there could be some other element to the experience that they could have.
sure.
And that's super practical. Like, that's the kind of thing that any
Yeah,
facilitator could do, of just like, so what are some various ways that people can think about, or that I can think about, how to incorporate something AR related into a facilitated
sure.
experience, and then
Well,
what does it take to create
yeah,
that?
let's workshop yours right now. What are you speaking on?
So I am speaking on how to basically how to make the most out of user generated content. So how learning
Oh,
teams can create systems and practices to get more out of the content that the rest of the company creates.
so give me an example. I mean, I think I understand, but I wanna make sure the people listening do.
So it's going to be there's going to be kind of a whole series of steps that we walk through, where part of it is creating good templates for people to create content out in the company, so that they're not starting from scratch and they're sending you these like really horrible slide decks with different fonts and everything like that. So it starts by just making templates. It then also is making training them how to train, so creating kind of like a train the trainer course that you can then facilitate for everybody, and then creating a system for intake, evaluation, and publishing, so that it's not just all these random questions or presentations or
Sure.
whatever that get shot at you, but so that you have an actual systematic way of processing through them.
So, couple ideas come to mind.
Great.
One with is the templates. So the templates I'm assuming are some sort of document.
Yes.
Okay, so in this document, you could create basically a digital overlay so that when you scanned, like let's say we put the QR code on the document, when you scan the QR code, it reveals the document completed so that they can see
Mm.
what good looks like.
Mhm,
And then they
mhm,
can take that with them. And every time they look at a template, they can see what good looks like when they scan it. That's one way.
mhm,
Um, Another way would be if you wanted to provide them additional resources on sort of like the steps. So you could
mhm,
create an AR experience which has the steps, and then inside each step might be a short video of you explaining it one more time,
mhm,
and then links to any external templates or resources that might help them.
mhm,
And if you give that to them on some sort of card or put it on a website that they can go and access, because the thing is once they scan it and leave, if they close that browser, they can't get back to it. You have to give them that trigger, you have to
yeah,
give them that code.
yeah,
So, however you can do that, and if you wanted to do it on paper, like I said, you could give it to them in something the size of a business card, or you can put it on your website so that they can just go to, you know, iheardmattspeak.com, whatever,
mhm,
and
mhm,
scan it.
mhm.
That's not available, by the way, but it would be cool if it
That
was.
would be neat.
It would be cool. But and they could scan it, and then they can get those resources anytime that they need them.
So in terms of like what is possible, like again, like thinking about in a facilitated session, let's say I have a code that can get scanned up on the screen.
Mhm.
What can I create to pop up? Like, is it just something that comes up on their phone, or can it be kind of like you think about like with the mixed reality like glasses, where it's like you're like seeing through through your phone camera, and there's something additional out there in the space, or
Yes,
like what's
yes.
possible?
So both
Okay.
things are possible. What would be really fun is what we call a lot of times we call it the CEO experience or the trainer on the table. So basically, you take a video with a green screen background, and then
Mm.
when you put it into Zapper, you remove the background. So now it's an alpha video,
Mhm.
and we can actually set it up so that it looks like when they scan, you pop up on their desk and you're about 6 inches tall,
Yes.
and you talk to them about whatever it is you want to remind them of. You can point at different buttons that are also on the screen, that type of thing. That one's always super fun. People love the idea of having that little pocket-sized trainer.
Yeah. I'm
That's
thinking
another way that you could do it.
I'm
Mhm.
thinking John Hammond in Jurassic Park when he's like talking to himself.
Yes. Do you have that hat? Do you have the hat
I could
and the
find
cane?
one.
Because if you do, that could be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, there's lots of things that you could do. It's really a matter of thinking about what it is that you want to be more dynamic in
Yeah.
your session,
Yeah.
and then what do you want them to take with them that we could put into sort of an AR experience?
And I think that's the key thing, and I think this comes up with all technologies. This is huge in AI right now of people using AI more as a buzzword than as a thing. That it's just like it's a neat idea or tool, but they haven't really thought about, okay, but like what are we really trying to solve here? Is there and so
Mhm.
with AR, kind of on the point you were just making, what how can we think about where this really has added value? It's, the little 6-inch
Mhm.
me on the table is really cool, but how do I know if that's adding something? Like what
Sure.
how can I think through that?
So one of the ways okay, back it up.
Yep.
So one thing that I have done in the last 5 years is ask that question, right? Because I know that, like, I could make an interactive business card, which is great, except we don't really give out business cards anymore.
Mhm, mhm,
I could put it on my, signature, my email signature, and then people can scan it and get a personalized message from me. That increases engagement and makes
mhm,
your first interaction with me even more dynamic. But I think you're looking for something a little deeper. And what I would say is this, I would say that AR is great for adding context. It's great for providing just-in-time learning.
mhm.
So for example, a buddy of mine, his name is Mike Peacock. I've told this story like 4 times this month, so if y'all heard it, sorry, here it comes again. He works for Aristocrat Gaming in Las Vegas, and they make, you guessed it, slot machines,
Okay.
right? Which are not, there's no slot on them anymore, but nevertheless,
Yeah.
games. So they've been using AR for many years, at least 5 years. And a couple of ways that they do it is, one, they put codes inside the cabinet. So that's what the slot machine is called. It's actually in a cabinet. And so you open up the game cabinet, and inside they can scan, and basically instead of carrying around um, a user
Manuals.
manual,
Yeah.
they can access quite quickly through augmented reality what it is that they need, and if there's a piece or a part that they need to be able to see, there can be a 3D rendering of it that they can see right there in their space, move it around, look at it, and be able to sort of diagnose the problem in that way.
Mhm,
They
mhm,
also use it for their customers. So they put, augmented reality codes on poker chips and give them out to their clients so that when their clients have a broken machine, they can scan it to, number 1, either troubleshoot it themselves, so
mhm.
that gives them some options for troubleshooting it, and then 2, how do you contact us? So that they're not trying to remember how, they don't gotta Google it, they just scan this poker chip, which, by the way, their customers now collect because they love them. They've become like a collectible.
Awesome.
So they use it both internally and externally facing to provide context, provide step-by-step instructions, just-in-time learning,
Mhm.
those types of things.
Yeah.
I think the fun part is that we can add more, dynamic, we can create 360 virtual tours with augmented reality,
Mhm,
and nobody ever has to put a headset on. They
mhm.
can just scan and look around through their phone.
Yep.
Destry and I did one for ATD where we got to go and visit, the Alamo, which we didn't actually get to do because the COVID had stolen our conference experience. That was sort of the whole ATD
Yeah.
scavenger hunt theme, and we got to go visit the Alamo. And now we every time we talk about that, we get to talk about the basement and how there's no basement at the Alamo, and only Gen Xers get that, and everyone else just kind of glosses over like, what is she talking about?
As an
What
elder
is she talking
millennial,
about?
I still get that joke.
I'm not a millennial, but I do love that you think I am. I'm very flattered that you think I'm a millennial.
Yeah. And just to put a point on it, just in case anybody's wondering, the great thing about all this stuff is that there isn't it, and maybe it used to, but it doesn't require an extra app or anything. It's just your
That's correct.
phone camera that's accessing the information, and so it can all be seamless.
Yeah, it's called Web AR.
Web
So
AR.
basically, you scan a QR code, which anyone who's lived through the pandemic knows what a QR code is.
Yeah.
And you scan the QR code, and it launches a website, which then that website launches the experience.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I think probably one of the first times I ever saw a QR code used for training, and it was probably kind of AR as well. It was uh, a QR code that was put up on the wall next to a thermostat in the office, and it said, "Scan this to learn how to fix the thermostat." And you would scan it, and it was a picture of the facilities guy going, or it was a video of him going, "Don't touch the thermostat."
That's fantastic
Yeah.
because people will scan that
Oh,
shit.
yes, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They see a code, they pull out their phone. They're like, "I wonder
yes.
what this is."
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, I hated that about working in an office
Yeah,
is that I could not control the thermostat,
yeah.
and I was always blazing hot.
It's always too hot or too cold in every office in
Yep,
the world. It just is a rule.
yep,
Yeah,
it's true.
everything's on or off. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that's helpful. That's helpful for me. I love that idea of thinking through. So it's really good at giving additional context. It's really great for
Yep,
just in time learning. I think
mhm,
that's I think the future of this. Especially, I do believe generative when we can start to mix generative AI to create AR experiences like on the fly, that'll be really cool for like just in
yeah.
time stuff.
Don't think that's not in
Oh,
progress because
I'm
I'm
sure.
sure
I'm sure.
somebody's working on that.
100%,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and the name of the game with all this is going to be just how quickly can you put it into a form factor that is both easy to access and like fast
mhm,
enough that it can be
yeah,
real time.
because we gotta have everything really fast,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
super fast. Yep,
yeah. Um,
mhm,
anything else people should be thinking about if they're just diving into AR? What are common things that you see? Any other common things, questions that people have or mistakes that people make?
mhm. Well, I'll say a couple of things. 1, it's not as difficult as you think.
Yeah.
Um, 2, it's cheap.
Mhm.
You can actually open a hobbyist account and prototype, like, up to 5 experiences for nothing, and the
Mm.
account stays open forever. So, once you start actually applying them to your learning experiences, you'll need to get a license, but, Zapper lets you get in there and just play with it for a minute and see if it's gonna work for you, which I think is amazing.
Mhm.
Um, I think of it as just like every other tool in your tool belt, right? So, we have lots of tools. We have Storyline, we have video editing software, we have sometimes video recording software, we have animated videos, we have micro learning, right? We have Adobe. Here's the thing: if you can create a PowerPoint slide, you can create a simple augmented reality experience. You already have the skill set. I'm going to say it
Yeah.
one more time. You already have it. Everything transfers. If you know how to work Adobe programs, you can make a complicated one because Adobe is complicated as shit.
Yeah.
I have a hate love relationship with Adobe. I absolutely hate the process, but I typically love what comes out of it.
Mhm.
But the process makes me want. There's a reason I'm going bald back here. It's Adobe. Um, right? So, but, like, if you can do that, you can make it, an even more complicated one. So you already have the skills that you need to do it.
Yeah.
But AR and just XR in general, that stuff all begins in design.
Mhm.
So what you don't wanna do is roll out a program. You can do this, but it's not the most efficient way, and then go back and say, "Oh, I bet you I can make this AR." And with your existing stuff, that might be a good way actually to get started. But going forward, as you're building out your design, be thinking about what could I do? Where in this design could I take some contextual information and make it more engaging,
Mhm.
make it more dynamic, make it so that they are breaking their concentration with the e-learning that I'm in and using their mobile device, which by the way, they love. They love it. We are all in love
I
with
love
our
with the
mobile
phones.
devices.
Yes.
And so now you're having them take something that they love, they're looking at it, they're learning, they're getting a dopamine hit, they're getting the blue light effect, and then they're going back to their e-learning and they can't wait to scan again
Mhm.
because they've gotten that sort of hit from
Mm.
the dopamine.
Yeah.
So I think we should capitalize on that, right?
Yeah.
It's not we're not ma- look, we're not addicting people to like they're already addicted. We're
Yeah.
just taking advantage of that addiction
Yeah.
and using it for to help them learn better.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the things that I typically find myself saying a lot is that you already have the skills to do this. It's cheaper and easier than you think. And let's break that concentration so that they can refresh. Just think of it every time they go into their phone, it's like a refresh. One other thing I mentioned is we were talking about great ways to use it. So context, just in time learning. I would also say knowledge checks. Now,
Hmm.
notice I didn't say skill checks
Mhm.
but knowledge checks. Skill checks, maybe. Knowledge checks for sure. So if you just want to check in and say, give them a 5 question quiz to say, hey, did you hear this? Do you remember what you learned a minute ago.
Mhm.
This is a great way to, again, take them out of whatever they were learning it from and do it in AR, and then you can be more dynamic in the type of rewards you give. For
Yeah.
example, giving, like, a non-credentialed badge so they can take a selfie and an augmented reality selfie so that there's digital content overlaid, like, says, I passed the test," or whatever,
Yeah.
and then they can post that on social, and that, again, is activating that dopamine. I'm
Mhm.
doing it down here, but it's really up here.
Mhm.
But, like, it makes your heart feel good,
Mhm.
and so we're sort of capitalizing on that, and the fact that people love to take selfies. They all do.
Yes.
Even the people that say they don't, Destry, everyone. Everyone loves to take
Everyone loves
selfies.
selfies.
Yeah.
How speaking of since in learning we're obsessed with tracking everything, how easy
Oh,
for something like that, how easy is it to kind of close that? Because I'm imagining one of the great things, listening to you, what you were just saying, I feel like one of the great things about it is it doesn't have to be tied to like an LMS. You don't have to send an email that
right.
says like go log into the LMS. You just like send them an email with a QR code and let them do the thing on their phone. But then how easy is it to kind of close that loop and
Yeah.
track it somewhere?
Great question. So Zapper, just a month ago, released SCORM so that you can now export
No way.
ana for real, analytics to SCORM. And, you look like you're gonna cry, like, you're so happy. Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
So
I'm
you can now
very
export
yeah.
the analytics to SCORM, and so in the same way that you might use an external vendor to export their stuff, it's the same idea. You download a
Yes.
report, you upload
Yep.
it into your LMS.
Yep.
So they've got that. There's also good old fashioned XAPI
Yes.
has always been available with augmented reality.
Yep.
But that SCORM thing, that's a big deal,
Yeah.
and I remember having a conversation with them about a year ago, and they were showing myself and Destry, like, some of the things that they are coming down the pipe, and one of them was, screen only. So, basically, you scan, and whatever you
Mm.
put is just stuck to the screen. So, like a menu,
Okay.
and then they were talking about SCORM, and I said, "Do you guys understand that if you can get screen only and SCORM, it AR goes from being part of a blended learning experience to being a learning experience.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
whole thing could be an AR."
Mhm.
And and I'm like, I get to now I no longer have to say it's part of a blended, but that it is its own experience.
Yeah.
And I got to say that twice now. Well, 3 times if you count this.
Yeah.
And every time I said it, I get goosebumps
Yeah.
because I'm like, this could be, if we could grab onto this, this could accelerate it so that AR is soon equal to other modalities like video, e-learning, micro-learning. It's just another option.
Yeah. So talk I want to stick on that point for just a second with the
Sure.
stick on the screen. What do you mean by that? So like you scan something and just it's your whole screen? Is that all you
Yeah.
mean? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so, like, when you, look at, like, an Instagram
Yeah.
story and it just fills up your whole
Yeah.
screen, it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Got it.
Like, it fills the whole screen,
Oh, so it
and then
removes
when you
any kind
so
of
you're not seeing
browser.
the environment. Mhm.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
something in there activates the rest of the experience. So
Yes.
you tap on this or swipe this, and then it'll move on to whatever else you build in that experience. So it's like it's the beginning,
Yes.
just like the homepage of
Yes.
any e-learning, and
Yes.
then the SCORM allows us to actually track that they completed all the pieces within
Yes.
the experience.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think earlier the reason why I was having such a reaction to that is because I do everybody complains about SCORM, and it's fine to complain about it because it does have its
Yeah.
limitations. But the reality is that 99% of organizations have a learning management system. They don't have the resources to do a lot with XAPI. They need to just have the basic reporting solved. And there's so many really cool learning applications that are getting built out
Oh,
there
yeah.
that aren't able to crosstalk back to a learning management system. So it's neat and cool, but at the end of the day, if a giant part of my job is still compliance and making sure boxes are checked, if I can't check a
Oh,
box, I'm just not gonna
right.
do it. I'm just
You're
not
not
gonna
gonna
do
use that
use that
product.
other thing. So that's
Yep.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, you have got me really excited, even more excited than I was. So thank you for that.
Good. Good,
Um,
goody
to
good.
to close out, we do have 3 questions that we ask every guest. So the first
Okay.
one is, what is one book or podcast that everyone should listen to and why?
Well, absolutely check out the If You Ask Betty podcast.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you've listened at
Yes,
all,
of
Matt,
course.
but, like, especially right now, because Loki season 2, the finale just ended. Just don't say shh, I have not watched it yet.
I haven't
No
either.
spoilers,
I haven't either. I'm
please.
waiting for my daughter and I are finally getting through the Marvel movies. And so then I'm gonna have her watch Loki
Oh,
season 1 and then we can watch Loki
mm,
season 2.
I thought we were gonna be friends.
No?
That's a bummer.
No? Oh.
No, it's fine. But, anyways, but we did do 5 episodes on how Loki is every learner.
Okay.
It's probably my favorite series.
Okay.
So check that out, especially if you're a Loki fan. The beginning of season 3, there's 3 episodes on, called "I Have Questions About Accessibility," and I brought in a lot of experts from around the globe, and really great conversations around what is accessibility, what does L&D need to do with this, and then the third one is all about, you know it's folks that need accessible resources,
Mhm.
and what is it like for them when they don't have it,
'Kay.
and then what is it like for them when they do. And
Yeah.
so it's real world folks that are in learning, application of this is why it's important. And so, yeah, so those are some good ones. Other podcasts. Well, there's a couple others in L&D that I think are super cool. The L&D Hot Seat,
Mhm.
with Russell. I love Russell. He's love
Yeah.
you, man. He's
Russell's a
great.
yeah, recent acquaintance. Really like him.
He's the cool cat.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to know Russell Sweep. Look him up right
Yeah.
now. Follow him. Um, Other pocket, like, I love, like, Smartless because
Hmm.
they're just have you ever
No.
you don't know that?
Mm-mm.
Smartless is, Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes,
'Kay.
and they're all hysterical in and of their own right. I may or may not have a long-rooted crush on Jason Bateman, it's possible,
'Kay.
but, his dry humor is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that one's really cool. Books everyone should read, there's so
So many.
many. Right
I mean, so
now,
many.
I'm
Look at
reading
me. Like
yeah. I like that they're rainbow color. You
Yeah.
get the rainbow thing
Yeah.
going on. That's cool. Um, I'll tell you what I'm reading right now.
Okay.
I just started Adam Grant's new Hidden Talents? Nope,
Mhm.
that's not it. Hidden Potential,
'Kay.
maybe?
Okay.
It's Adam Grant's new
Adam
book.
Grant's new book. Perfect.
And my understanding is there's a lot in it about imposter syndrome. So, and that's a passionate subject of mine. So
Yeah.
excited about that one.
Awesome. Okay. What is one
Mhm.
skill that has most helped you be successful in your life?
Building relationships.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because 'cause I'll tell you, networking is a very important thing. I do it probably for different reasons than others. Like, a lot of folks network so that, when they need something, they have somebody that they can reach out to. I love to get to know people and spend time with them and, try to find ways to help them find joy,
Mhm.
like karaoke,
Mhm.
which I'm not sure if you were I don't know if you were having a good time, but I had a great time.
I had a great
So
time. I had a
okay, good.
blast. Yes. No, I loved it.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good, good. That's what I'm hoping for. So, yeah, so that's what I would say is just sort of building relationships, maintaining those relationships, has definitely helped me be successful for
Fa
sure.
fantastic. And then as someone who has known, worked with, been inside lots of different organizations, what
Mhm.
is the most common opportunity you see for organizations to improve talent development?
I think the thing we all need to do is to think differently. And I would say that about think differently about how we solve problems,
Mhm.
think differently about how we approach things like learning, how we approach things like employee wellness, because if we keep doing the thing that we've always done, we'll keep getting the results we've always gotten, and it
Mhm.
turns out we're not really happy with those results.
Mhm.
Like, I haven't met anybody who's super happy with
Mm.
results on any of those things.
Yeah.
So, we can drop the word innovative all we want, but it's really about thinking differently. I have to change the way that I'm thinking in order to change the way that my organization thinks. So, yeah, I know, like, I think Apple had the Think Different
Yep.
was a logo or
Yep.
a mantra they had a while back. I'm sure they've let that go now, but really that's something that I'm striving to do. And AR and VR are a great platform for me. I even speak about podcasting a lot because I want people to think differently about how they design learning. You don't have to start in storyline. You can. You
Yeah.
totally can.
Yeah.
There's fun things to do in storyline. You don't have to start there.
Yeah.
You could start in 7 taps. You could start in an AR experience. You could start and make sure that every course you create has a practice in VR. Like it's possible to do those things, but if you're not thinking differently,
Hmm.
if you're always thinking, well, okay, cookie cutter, here we go. Let's
Yeah.
do the next thing.
Yeah.
You're never going to get there.
There is a lot of inertia in all things in life. Do you
Mhm.
feel it's I always am it's hard to judge whether there's like a lot of movement or the tides are turning or whatever you want to say about it. Like it feels like there's a lot of energy and discussion about doing L&D differently, but then we're in the middle of that discussion kind of, so it's kind of hard, sometimes hard to judge like, is that a real thing that's happening? Is there a real change that's happening, or is it
Yeah.
just that there's always people talking about change?
So this is a sensitive answer.
Okay.
So I think that I think that there is a true desire,
Mhm.
especially on the side of creators, to do things differently, not just because we're bored, because we are,
Mhm.
but because we see the value and the impact it makes if we try to move the way that we create learning to be closer to the way that we learn at home versus the way that we learn at work. Because
Mhm.
now that we actually, most of us work at home, well, a lot of us, and at least
Yeah.
all of us did at one point, but like
Yeah.
a lot of us work from home. We're starting to see more of a stark difference between the way that we learn at work and the way that we learn at home.
Yeah.
And so if we want to bridge that gap, I think there's definitely a deep desire. The problem is that thinking differently doesn't make any money.
Yeah.
So it's the same story, different day, same chapter, different characters. It's that's always gonna be our fight because, again, L&D has a budget of $8 and they only bring in $0. So, how can we talk anybody into letting us do
Mhm.
something that costs more than that?
Mhm.
And that's that a and a lot of it is fear of change. A lot of it is fear of change, a lot of it is fear of that, but a lot of it just comes down to money. It doesn't
Mhm.
make money.
Yeah.
And that kinda when I think about that, sometimes I get mad
Mhm.
because I'm like, "What am I doing?" Like, I get mad.
Yeah.
"Why am I even here?"
Yeah.
But I'm here because I want people to think differently. Someday, augmented reality will be have the same seat at the table as e-learning. Because if we think about it, like,
Mhm.
e-learning took a long time to catch on,
Mhm.
a long time to be democratized to the point where everyone can kind of do it,
Mhm.
right? It was like a 20-year run before it became commonplace.
Normal.
And we're not 20 years in with AR, not
Yeah.
in learning anyways.
Yeah.
So, we've got some time, but
Yeah.
that's sort of my take on that.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, thank you so much for this, Betty. It really helped me think through kind of how I want to use this stuff. You have some great insights and thoughts on just how to get started with this, because I am at the very beginning of this journey. So I'm excited to
Yeah.
have people like you around me to to help me figure it out. Thank you so much for your time. I'll definitely link in the show notes to If You Ask Betty. Like you said, great podcast to listen to. Highly recommend it. I hope you have enjoy the rest of your Friday, and I hope you have a good weekend.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you liked the discussion, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. As a reminder, if your team is struggling keeping up with the training development demands of your organization, we want to help. Better Everyday Studios is a full-service instructional design team that can help you with everything from ideation to actual content creation and delivery. Please reach out to us using the link in the episode notes below. Have a great day.